we finally got new League of Legends content. That means I'm back to recording whatever. So hey guys, it's Ranger Red and welcome back to another League of Legends lore video. Fucking hell, finally. It's been a while. I had to wait for I had to wait for a full season. We had Arcane. That was good. But this time we have something quite different. So Riot has released, well, they released a lot of things, but there are two main important things. But first off, the new League of Legends split or season has begun, so everyone's climbing ranked, everyone's playing the game again. But I know that a lot of Arcane fans out there and a lot of casual fans, they don't play the game all that much, especially those who have been introduced to League of Legends by the series. And a lot of people are wondering, oh, what's happening next? But guess what? With the new lore stuff that has been released, alongside with the new season, with the new patch and all that stuff, a lot of changes happen in the game. And there are two main big things that have contributed to the lore development of League. One of them is the yearly seasonal cinematic, which Riot Games would post every year. So there's like every time there's a new season, a new cinematic would be released. And there's a second. It's a motion comic, and the motion comic is only accessible to those who play the game or who has like the League of Legends client. Now, obviously, I know a lot of people don't play the game and all that stuff, and I did the same when the first season of Arcane came around, when they had like their small event with a lot of lore stuff that was hidden, that was shown in the client. But apparently, the majority of Arcane's audience, they don't know those even existed, or they never even bother to touch the game at all. So I'm gonna do the same here. So we'll get to the cinematic in like another video. But for this case, first of all, we will do the motion comic first because it is wow. It's amazing. Same thing with the cinematic, but I decided to do the motion comic first because the chronological timeline uh, has the motion comic, uh, the events of the motion comic happen a lot, like way, way, way a lot before the events of the seasonal yearly 2025 cinematic is taking place to. So instead, yeah, we're gonna go and have the cinematic first instead. So yeah, I'll get it ready.
Death is salvation. Bow before your damnation.
Now, I know this does not look like the client or the League of Legends client or like the game's client for that is. Instead, I'm going to be doing this off of YouTube. And the reason why I'm doing this is so that, all of you guys will know where to watch it yourself if you are curious about how actually looking at the motion comic for yourselves instead of just trying to download the game so that you can just read the comic. So yes, we're here on YouTube and we are going to be watching it from Skin Spotlights. Um, by the way, Skin Spotlights, they are a legendary channel here in the League of Legends community, by the way. And God, what did I do? All right, hold up. Let me just pardon me, boys. Pardon me. All right, there we go. There we hold up. There we go. So, without further ado, here is the motion comic, like the newest motion comic for the League of Legends lore about the history of the Noxian Empire. And the motion comic's title is The Bringer of Ruin. So, power in and of itself is useless. What matters is how it is wielded, and it starts off in the distant past. Now, timeline-wise, this means that it's starting quite far back in history. This is like ancient times. And during these ancient times, the region of Noxus uh, wasn't the region that we know today, where everyone is, they look like what they look like. Instead, they were all spread out amongst different barbarian tribes, and these tribes were just going to war against each other for power and all that stuff. Essentially, this whole entire region, it's not under it's not under a unified banner, and everyone is just going to war against each other. And we get introduced to Katashli. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, but I could be wrong, obviously. But that's just how it's written, so I will continue to pronounce it as such, Katashli. So again, starts off in a distant future, or distant past. He was a renowned general in a great army. His strength was formidable, but it was all in service of his lord. And here it shows his lord, the person that he follows, and that is Son Uzal. Now, who is Son Uzal? Son Uzal is Mordekaiser before he became Mordekaiser. Basic TLDR, and I mean very basic TLDR of of Mordekaiser's lore, or Son Uzal's lore. So before Mordekaiser became Mordekaiser, he was known as Son Uzal, and Son Uzal was the most formidable and the most powerful barbarian general in the in this chaotic barbaric region, which would become the Noxian Empire in like centuries in the future. And with his conquests, he ruled over essentially the entire region on his throne. But when he died, that was when his essentially his first empire, or his first imperial conquest fell apart. Now, the thing was, the reason why he was so formidable was due to his belief that if he sheds and conquers and seeks out glory through violence and war, he would dine in a great hall with the gods, where they would be treating him as an equal. That's the very most basic part of like his like belief or principle. But when he died, he found out there was no such gods. There was not even like a proper afterlife. And he was so pissed off about this that he just became the god of the underworld. Yeah. And that was when he adopted the name Mordekaiser. And Mordekaiser means like lord or king or god of death or god of the underworld in the language of the dead, which was called Oknun. So in his language of the dead name, or Oknun, his name would be Mordekaiser, but his mortal name was Son Uzal. So Son Uzal is Mordekaiser, and that's basically it. But how did he get to like this? Basically, mages binded his soul to like his old armor, but we will get to that in just a bit. Anyways, yeah, let's go back to the motion comic. And I think it's best if I unmute this video, but we will have the 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 audio or the volume of the video very low, so you guys can hear the music. Violence often attracts more violence, and the scent is a powerful draw. So in this, we get introduced to the demon of bloodshed and violence, and his name is right here. That is Otacon. Now, Otacon is not the only demon in the League of Legends universe. He is one of many. I believe there are about it's like a handful, I would say. So there is Fiddlesticks, then there is Tahm Kench, then there's Evelynn, then there's Nocturne, then there is Otacon, and there is Tybalk. And yeah, I know Tybalk looks a little bit weird, but trust me, it is a demon. I mean, I showed you like a big fat catfish, and yes, that's a demon. Anyways, let's continue the motion comic. Son Uzal kept no friends. There were only those he could use. So this is a big character thing about Mordecai or sorry, Sun Uzal, and that he never really he has never seen Katashli here as a friend. He just sees him as essentially a very important person that he could use for his conquests. And as you can see, Sun Uzal's creeping up, and he swoops down, and yeah, he just attacks him. And then it explains about like the principles of like how demons acts. It says all demons are the same in Runeterra. They lie, they defy, they hunger, and they should not be underestimated. And here he attacks Katashli, whose devotion to his leader was unquenchable, but still he was only human. And there he gets absolutely fucking bodied and gets killed by Otacon. And you can see that there's like a red orb right there. Basically, Otacon is just sucking out his soul. Standard demon stuff. But Sun Uzal, even though he's not one for sentiment, he still kills the demon in one hit. And essentially his thought process is that he would not let this life go so easily because again, he's not seeing Katashli as like a person that he could like be friends with. He just sees him as like a tool or a pawn. And another thing interesting about about Sun Uzal, right? Or Mordekaiser's lore is that is that he really does have like a very keen interest on how death is, and like he's all about control, resurrections, uh, and all that stuff, soul binding and all that stuff. Which we should go back to the comic because this will further show what I mean. So as you can see, both Katashli and the sort of primordial physical form of Otacon has fallen, right? So as we progress, he then starts to use arcane scrolls, which he sees from his conquests. Let's continue a little bit further. And as you can see right here, Sun Uzal found one way to thwart death. A binding. So what is basically being shown here is that the soul or the spirit of the demon, or like the soul of the demon, I think that's the precise or like the proper term for it, is that he is binding the soul of Otacon to the physical body, and maybe also merging and binding the soul as well of Katashli to essentially make one powerful living weapon, which is going to be seen in the next scene. Yep. The cost of which would not be his to bear, united in one monstrous body. Katashli and Otacon's existence became one of horror and violence. What a badass thing this is. I mean, he basically just made a living weapon, and he used a demon for it. And I should also explain how he got these scrolls, right? These arcane scrolls that are like used to bind the souls. Way back then, way back in the day, before Sun Uzal began his conquest, there was this ancient war, like very, very ancient war. More ancient than this ancient history of Noxus, right? There was this ancient war called the Darken War. And these Darkens were essentially demigods, but they're like bad demigods. The whole Darken lore thing, that's meant for like that's going to be for like another video, because if I do it all in here, it's just gonna be a very, very long ass video. Hopefully in the distant future, I get to do a video about the Darkins and the region where they come from, which is Shurima. But to keep it simple, these Darkins, the only way for them to be defeated was to essentially be sealed into like these weapons. But for humans to do that, the celestial gods essentially gave them these arcane scrolls for them to do so. So essentially spirit binding or soul binding to seal something or bind some soul or spirit into like a object or some form of, as long as it's like a physical thing that is binded to like the real world, then it can be used. And it's thanks to this knowledge, Sun Uzal decided, hey, maybe we could use the spirit or like the spirit or the soul of this demon and bind it with Katashli's like body, and that's what he did, essentially right here. And he used Atakan as a living weapon to just continue his violent conquests. And all I can say is that it worked. And you can also see in the background right here, that is indeed Sun Uzal in essentially like his first Mordekaiser-like armor. And here is the concept art of that armor as well. The concept art for his face is quite different, but I don't really mind it so long as the armor's pretty much the same and as long as the character is true to itself, then no biggie for changes. Even though a lot of people really hate small, minute changes like that. Sun Uzal's conquest only hastened. I mean, it is due to the fact that Otacon has been serving him dutifully, and you can see him right here, sitting on top of his throne. And if we were to not make this PG, if we were like, you know, Warhammer level, this would have been drawn in like a mountain of corpses, which would have been so fucking cool. But obviously, we have to keep it PG. Now, upon the Conqueror's first death, yes, first death, we will get to that. His hold on the demon was broken. So now, basically, now that Sun Uzal has died, uh, his control over Otacon has basically been broken. And now Otacon has just been running wild. And as you can see, he's like, he has a corpse or like a body holding in one hand, and he's like gonna kill another that's jumping towards him, or like he's thrown up. But upon Sun Uzal's death, his deeds were faded into myth because it has been like centuries, like for so long. Until Sun Uzal would rise again. And this is what I mean about Sun Uzal returning as Mordekaiser with the scrolls of soul binding. And as you saw from the panel there, it's shown that he was going to be bounded, or like his soul was going to be bounded to his old armor, and that's how he's going to come back from the dead. And these mages did so under his own orders, because he was like whispering, like he was throwing in like the slightest whispers, the slightest hints, ordering like these mages to do his deeds to bring him back, and that's basically what he did. And yeah, this would sow the seeds for his inevitable return, which would happen centuries later. Yes, literal goddamn centuries. And that was then he became known as the Iron Revenant. So if you remember, or if you guys can recall from what was shown earlier, he was first known as the Unconquerable King. But now he is the Iron Revenant because he's back from the dead, and well, as you can see, that's his that's essentially his body now. It's his armor. And there are his mages that brought him back. And Mordekaiser, that's his new name again, called on his fallen soldiers, shadows from his past, which includes Otacon, including his bringer of ruin. That's what he is called to him. Now, as you can see, Otacon looks a little bit more different. He looks a bit more monstrous, where way before he looked a bit more primordial because he had like human arms. But in this case, he looks quite different. But it's mainly due to the fact that thanks to his newfound freedom, he just became more powerful. And of course, it says that the demon had grown used to his freedom, so he refused at first. But Mordekaiser needed to remind him on who it served. And by God, what the hell is this? You guys may be wondering, oh, that looks familiar. I mean, us lore guys, we obviously know who that is. Who is that? Well, I'll tell you. It's LeBlanc. So apparently LeBlanc witnessed the resurrection and the return of Mordekaiser. But that has been known to us for quite some time, but obviously for the new audience of lore enthusiasts from Arcane, obviously wouldn't know this, but LeBlanc is basically the leader of the Black, is one of the leaders of the, is like the main leader of the Black Rose. And she is like its co-founder, basically, along with another character, which we will get to quite a bit. But yeah, this whole hallucination thing that was happening in Arcane with like the shift, the trip and ball things that made Mel think that she was like losing her mind and all that stuff before she returned to Piltover to fight her mother and all that stuff. The Black that was the Black Rose's leader, LeBlanc. So yeah, the little more you know. Now let's get back to the comic, shall we? So let us continue. And as you can see, like these are also the other mages that either had brought him back or had witnessed the return of him. And I'm not going to speculate anything, but I could say that these are members of the Black Rose as well. It is the it is the possibility that they are. And what a freaking panel that is. The years that followed brought untold destruction and yeah, what a freaking shot this is. So this part in the timeline, if I remember correctly, is now the reign of the Iron Revenant, which is the second reign of Sun Uzal, or the first ever reign of Mordekaiser, which is technically his second reign, but you get the gist. And it is said in the lore on how it's written, it is said that he used the living weapons of Shadow and Fire. Shadow is in reference to Otacon, and Fire is in reference to Tybolc, which is the primordial demon of uncleansing fire and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure that's how his title is supposed to be properly addressed. Now, obviously, as you can tell, the guy just destroyed everything because it is at this point he essentially almost pretty much conquered the entire world. And with like essentially two demons being used as weapons, I mean it is quite expected. And at last, opportunity. So this was now at the point where we could honestly say that this right here is the official birth of the Noxian Empire that we will come to know today. But obviously, that has a long, long way to go. Now, as you can see from the dialogue, this is being told by someone. Like, someone is retelling this historical account. And to answer your questions, it's LeBlanc who's retelling all of this retelling all of this history to us. And as you can see from this panel, this is essentially recreating the Noxian coat of arms or Noxian symbol, which is the Triforix. So again, we can take this as now the official birth of the Empire of Noxus, but obviously it wouldn't be an empire just yet because they have to deal with Mordekaiser first. I will never forget that day. The only thing sweeter than wielding power, by the way, that's LeBlanc, as you can see, is taking it away. Now, on the left side, that is LeBlanc, and on the right side, this character right here is Vladimir. Now, Vladimir is basically the co-founder, or like one of the, or essentially like the second or like the other major leader of the Black Rose. And from what we can see from this panel here, him and LeBlanc are responsible of sealing away Mordekaiser back to the underworld and to essentially stop his reign as the Iron Revenant. And with that, we could honestly say that is when the Noxian Empire will start to become a thing. So let us now continue on with the comic, because there are like a few pages left if I'm being sure. As I said, by the way, this is the helmet of Atakan, so that means LeBlanc and Vladimir have also sealed him away. So this is now taking place during the present time. Power in and of itself is useless. What matter is how it is wielded. But it requires one more thing. Time, a currency I've never lacked. So, before we move forward, I don't know where in the hell this is this is happening. They probably just took him onto some random beach. It kind of looks like it is by a coast or like right next to like a mountainous region, but again, I really don't know. And it seems that they are, or at least LeBlanc, it seems like she is planning to unleash Otacon back into the world. Plans are simple things. Now, I can tell, or everyone can tell, like, this is being done by the Black Rose because of the rose, like, blood magic or all that stuff. All that is needed is the right moment. And there you can see LeBlanc unleashing Otacon back into the world. Which was, again, if you guys can tell, was sealed away in his helmet. And all its need as well is a little push. And there is the final shot of Otacon essentially returning back to the physical world. Now, again, that's I don't know what is going to come of this, but that's pretty much the whole entire comic. But then again, I don't know what LeBlanc's plan is, but she does seem to have a plan, and it has been brewing for a long while, it seems. Um, more details and more stuff about her plan is shown and kind of explained. Well, not really explained, but shown some little more details in the seasonal cinematic that was also released alongside all of this. But that's going to be for the next video because this whole entire video is already long enough for me to handle. Plus, I explained pretty much a lot, but not really. So yes, um, do look out for the next video where I will try to explain the lore of the most recent season cinematic of League of Legends that was released for this year of 2025. So that's it for this video, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, leave a like down below, leave a comment down below, share this with your friends because why not? I absolutely love sharing lore, especially for those who are unfamiliar with all of this, especially to the Arcane fans if they are watching this. I hope you all enjoy it, and I shall see you guys at the next one.
Destiny, domination, deceit.